All right, what's up, me Duoles? Stuart Anderson here with just a short introduction before we hear from Officer Kyle Wilkins. We're grateful for Kyle and the time he spent with me and Chip, talking about safety, talking about cars, talking about being courteous, talking about being aware, how to be visible. Kyle is a canyon patrolman for the Unified Police Department here in Salt Lake City. And when I approached the Unified Police to do an interview, they put out an email to all of their officers, and Kyle was the one that responded and said, I would love to speak to them, although he thought we were a Harley-Davidson motorcycle club. So it was cool that once he found out we were cyclists that he wanted to be part. So super grateful for him and the time he took. He took time out of his day to come and be with us. So grateful for him, thankful for the patrolmen that keep us safe and that respond to the emergencies that take care of us. So kit pickups coming up June 7th. If you hear this in time, we've got a short announcement in the podcast about it. But June 7th, Sugar House Park at the Olympus Pavilion. We'll have all the kits and a team picture at 8 o'clock. So be there in your white 2022 kits. Otherwise, you're not going to be in the picture. So wear the right stuff. We'll have some sweatshirts, T-shirts, hats, some socks. So we're looking forward to being together. That's next week. And that's it, kit pickup. So anyway, grateful for each of you, thankful for the team, thankful for those that are leaders on the team that have been setting up rides, that have been posting out to group me, whether it's mountain bike or gravel or road biking. It's so fun to see the team come together and work together, to be together, to race together, to ride together. So keep it up. Keep connecting and making this a great group. So thankful for each of you. And hope you have a good one. Thanks. All right. What up? Welcome to the Duole podcast. Stuart Anderson, Spencer Chipping.
Hey, everybody.
Officer Kyle Wilkins. Is that right? I say your last name right?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Officer Wilkins has taken the day off work. He's joined us in studio. We've never actually done podcast live. This is the first time we've ever done live.
It's awesome.
We're live.
Yeah. Well, not live, but I mean like together.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, we always do it over Zoom. So this is cool. We're together.
Yeah.
If we air this podcast before next week, June 7th, kit pickup. So we're doing team picture at, what's the pavilion? Olympus?
Olympus Pavilion at Sugar House Park. Yep.
Okay. So Olympus Pavilion, Sugar House Park. We'll be there at 7:30, and then picture will be at 8. Mm-hmm. And then we'll probably stay around till 8:39.
Yeah.
But
we've got some massage tables coming.
Whoa. Stretch lab?
Stretch lab is coming. So because everyone will be in their spandex already for the photo, you're going to be all set.
That's
to
going to be weird.
Stretched out. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, Kyle, I sent out a text last week to the team, and I said, we're going to have Kyle on. Does anybody have any questions? So no one said questions, but I had 6 guys respond with gratitude texts. So one of them is Dean Walker, orthopedic surgeon on the team, wanted to say thanks. He actually caught you 2 weeks ago or last week. And I don't know if he stopped or if he just knows who you are, but you were sweeping the shoulder of one of the canyons. Like as he was, so there was rocks, there was debris in the shoulder of the bike lane. And he said he caught you sweeping the shoulder. Was it you?
He caught me.
I don't know if he caught you.
I'm busted. No, yeah. No, yeah, I think I remember that. I didn't think anything of it. We try to...
Man, if a cyclist sees a officer doing something like that...
It's so true.
That's awesome. Well, maybe tell us about your journey as a officer, kind of how it started, and your career. Is that good?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So let's see. I actually in the beginning I don't know how I got into law enforcement. It was kind of weird. I always wanted to be a teacher. I knew I wanted to do something like some public service type job, and I always thought I wanted to be a teacher. But when I was going to college, one of my good buddies was like, "Hey, you should come to police academy." He always wanted to be a cop since he was a kid. That was his childhood dream. So he's like, "Hey, you should come do police academy with me because, you make about as much as a teacher, and you get to do all this shooting training and fast driving." And I was like, and I love guns and I love driving fast. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Okay, so sign me up, and ended up doing it, and it's been a good thing for me. It's been quite a wild ride. I started in 2002, And so I'm just coming up on my 20-year mark next month, and I started out working at Salt Lake County Jail for a couple years, and then came out as a deputy for the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office. Worked in Mill Creek. I worked in Cottonwood Heights before they made their own police department. Most of my time I spent in Kearns and Magna area. I was a school resource officer at Kearns High School for several years.
Nice.
I rode motors. I did bike patrol. I'm a two-wheel.
Yeah.
Anything with two wheels.
We gotta tell that
love
story.
Love it. So, I did special victims unit. So like sex crime stuff. I was an investigator for that for a few years, and now I'm kind of at more towards the later part of my career, and I'm kind of I'm currently assigned I'm with Unified Police Department now, and I'm with the Canyon
Canyon
Special
Patrol.
Operations Canyon
Nice.
Patrol.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that is a good place to
Can you
work.
talk about that, the Canyon Patrols? Because that's who we see. How does that work?
Oh yeah. So Canyon Patrol is basically we're part of the Unified Special Operations, so that they do SWAT and K9 and among other things, search and rescue, and then they have actual sworn officers, police officers that are assigned specifically to patrol and assist in the canyons. So we provide services in all the canyons that surround Salt Lake County, but our main focus especially is immigration, Parleys, Mill Creek, and Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. And of course, if there's something that happens in the other areas, we respond to that as well.
Nice. Yeah, so I put out, I don't know who I texted. I just emailed Unified Police. I was like, hey, this is what we're doing. And somebody from the media department responded to me. And then from your story, it sounds like the Unified Police put out like an email that said, hey, we've got this idiotic, what did they call it? A biker club. Biker group that wants to do a podcast. And so Kyle was like, well, I love motorcycles. I'd love to talk to a biker group. And then when we talked on the phone, you were like, oh, you're a cycle team? Like bikes?
Yes.
So not a motorcycle, but we still appreciate you coming.
Oh yeah,
talk
and
to
it's
us.
not that I think any less. I've never road biked actually. Like I have a mountain bike. I love mountain biking. I love dirt biking. I just love dirt biking. I have dirt bikes since I was a teenager, and
Nice.
I've done all kinds of street bikes, sport bikes, and I have a Harley now because I did motors and did the bike patrol. I love riding on two bikes, and what's funny is so at first I was like, yeah, I'll take on this thing because I could talk for days about motorcycles if it's a biker group. I have so much to say, and so it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool that it's a cyclist, and I didn't know you guys are mountain bikers too. We were talking about that, but primarily road stuff, and I don't know a lot about that, and I think so I was like, okay, I got to kind of get to know more about this, and a couple weeks ago we were up in Immigration Canyon. I was up there with the COP officer up there, and we set up a little thing at Little Mountain, like a little canopy and some waters up there. We're handing out waters to people, and I got to talk to a lot of road bikers, and it was awesome. This one guy I talked to, he was showing me his bike and let me pick it up and fill it, and I was like, man, you guys ride those bikes with those little skinny tires and you're going 45 miles an hour. I'm like, you guys, what must clank when you take the spandex off, because that's like, and he got me all excited. Like he was telling me about how, because he was a hard enduro rider too, and dirt bikes and stuff. And he's like, oh, you got to try cycling. It's actually really fun. So man, I might get a cycle. I might do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was fun because when we got pulled over by Jake in immigration for doing two across in the single. So there's that section of immigration where we're supposed to ride single file, and he was with you. Like the two of you were up there, and like the team knew you were up there. Like people saw you guys. Were you handing out snacks or just like water, or what were you doing?
Yeah, so we were handing out waters and
Cool.
and like little information pamphlets and
Nice.
stuff. Just
that's great.
waving and talking to people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, well, maybe tell us about when we talked on the phone. You talked about how your normal day usually picks up at about 11. Like, what does a normal day look like for you? What do you do on a normal day?
So, I mean, I've worked right now I'm on day shift. So our day shifts are from like 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then we have the night shift that comes in at 4, and they're there, for till 2, and then we have other officers that can respond after that. But not a lot happens after that in the canyons, so luckily. So we check on, and we do run up the canyons, make sure that there's not debris on the roads, and make sure there's no cars that have gone off at night and things like that. And then we'll kind of switch canyons and check all the other canyons, just kind of making sure we got the pulse on the area and kind of know what's going on. And when more people start getting up in the canyon is when things get a little bit more busy, and especially it's kind of seasonal. Like right now we're kind of picking up more, but the last couple months it's been kind of, we call it the mud season, where it's kind of muddy and it's a little bit too cold and things aren't growing out. It's not as but there's not enough snow. But during the snow and during the non-mud season, it is packed crazy in all the canyons. Just, and personally I think it's awesome that people are getting out and getting sun on their skin and enjoying Mother Nature, taking that in. And
do you have a specific canyon? Like this is mine, I go up Mill Creek, or do you guys rotate?
No, we rotate. So we have we work 4/10, so usually at the beginning of our work week we'll and this is just normal, but it's totally not set in stone, but it can be interchangeable depending on the needs. But we'll start out on like the North Canyon and work our way south. So Monday, usually up at Immigration. On my Monday, I usually up in Immigration and Parley's area, and then in East Canyon and up to Big Mountain. Up to Big Mountain.
That's great.
And then Tuesday we'll do Mill Creek. Wednesday we'll the third work day we'll do Big, and fourth work day we'll do Little. And then as needed we also do Little. We'll go check Corner Canyon. We'll go check Lambs Canyon and other, some of the Mount Air,
Lambs.
some of the other little canyons when Lambs is open. At least I think it just opened it.
It did.
So
if you need a gate key, I got a family cabin up there. So if you ever need to get up.
Oh yeah, and that's what's funny. Like when I got assigned to the canyon jobs, they were giving me all this equipment, like little sticks to poke in the snow and a beacon and all this stuff, and I'm like, holy crap! And then they give me this ring of keys, and it is like a 5-inch ring with like 100 keys on it. And I'm like, geez, I didn't sign up to be like a custodian. What is this? So it's kind of cool to be the key keeper.
There's a lot of keys because I get
anywhere,
even up to Albion Basin and Little. I mean,
that's right.
Guardsman's Key. I mean, there's a lot of gates. Huh.
Man,
that's cool.
Kyle, we are up one of those canyons every morning. So it's we
see one of your canyon
and cross
patrol
with you every single morning. So, and which is what brings us here.
Yeah. And Chip had a good question yesterday, which was, if presented a box of donuts, is that looked on as a form of flattery, or is that do you take those willingly, or is that like this is like a bad joke?
I mean, like if someone offered you, if someone offered you guys a box of donuts,
I would take it.
I mean, we'll take it.
Okay.
I mean, we're just human. Of course we love donuts. Who doesn't love donuts?
I don't know. I mean, like that's what we're nervous about.
I think we take those jokes with a lot of grace. It's fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
So one of the biggest, we've had a couple of our team members hit by cars. So we have just in this spring, and that's kind of what spawned why I thought it would be fun. Good idea to talk, what you see, how we can be safe. Kind of, if you know the feelings of drivers, that's sometimes where we, I think, tango like water and oil. Like, why are they treating us this way? We're just, sometimes these drivers, even on Facebook, they're like, they don't have the right to be riding. And I'm like, well, it's not like I just ride my family around on a bike. Like, I have a car. And I think more than anything, we wanted to see your perspective on how we can stay safe, how we can be better interacting with driver, maybe better obey laws. And more importantly, one thing that we've seen is since 2020, like a huge influx in not only dumb cyclists, but just way more people in the canyons, way more people driving, like maybe a little more aggressive nature when it comes to driving with cyclists. So maybe your thoughts on that. Have you seen the same thing? Have you seen like more car cyclist interaction than in the past?
Yeah, and I think we've all kind of seen the increase of like frustrations and like road rage things you see on the news, and it just kind of that uptick of, I think, angst and people kind of polarizing and being against each other, especially from the, I don't know if it's the COVID thing, the lockdown. I don't know what's causing it, or maybe just the fact that there's a lot of people in the valley. It's growing a lot. The sport's growing a lot. I mean, COVID made a lot of people go out and do the outdoors, and a lot of them are new to it, so they don't know the right ways to do it. So it's really awesome that there's groups like Duole.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
You nailed it.
Did I say that right?
Excellent pronunciation.
When you first called me, you're like, yeah, we're with Duole, and I'm like,
what?
I'm like, well, I speak Spanish, and that means I heard.
That's right. You got it.
I'm like, oh, okay. What's this about? But it's probably French or something, right?
Italian.
What does it mean?
It means the same thing. You cause me great pain. Yeah.
Really?
Suffering. Yeah.
In the context of like what? Like
liking
itself?
Cycling,
yeah.
Okay. But it's a pain that you like.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I get it. now. That's awesome. No. So I hate to like talk about that type of thing, and not to minimize your member that was in a crash or anything at all. I think it's a good conversation we all need to have often. But I also like to like not blow things out of proportion or be like a doom and gloomer. Like, in reality, if you like, one thing that's surprising to me is how many cyclists I see in the canyons, and really the risks that I see cyclists taking, and drivers, especially drivers and cars and motorcyclists, and that we don't have more crashes and or injuries. I mean, I know that we do have, they happen, and that they're terrible, but it's pretty amazing. I think I just want to shed light on it. It's pretty amazing that we have so much shared use in such a small area. With such a huge population. What are we, over 1 million in the valley now, and that we don't have more. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a good thing, not only for the cycling community but for our community as a whole. I think that's pretty. I think we're doing pretty good. We can always improve, and we always want to be better and avoid anything like that. But
maybe expound on risks. That's an interesting word. Like, what do you see that you would claim like that's risky for a cyclist to be doing?
Well, I mean,
be honest.
It's hard for me to say because I'm not a cyclist, and it's hard. What's risky for a person who's it's maybe not risky for a drag racer to drive 200 miles an hour, right? But but I think when I see cyclists that don't have the right protective gear on. Or they're riding when it's bad lighting, or they don't have like brightly colored apparel on, and it makes it more difficult for motorists to see them. Or I think I don't know. I guess it's kind of risky. Okay, so like sometimes I saw this one guy skateboarding down Little Cottonwood Canyon, and he had like a leather suit on. He was like going so fast and sliding out sideways, and there's cars coming uphill. I don't know. Like, when I say risks, I mean, to me it's just risky to just go down, balls out down the canyon, and there's curves and there's rocks around curves and idiots and Subarus passing on the double yellow around that curve, so stuff like that. So not just risks that cyclists are taking. I think cyclists take on a lot of risk anyways to be out amongst cars, that are always going to win. So, and I think that's the key factor in keeping yourself safe is just, you got to own that, right? Yeah. Like, there's laws to protect us, but our safety is ultimately our own responsibility. So, but risks that other people take in the canyon, I talked about that skateboarder, but like the motorcycles that we see, in groups are going really fast and not wearing helmets, and cars passing on double yellows, and just driving recklessly, people drinking or texting. I don't know if bicyclists, I don't know if that's a problem, but it's funny. I saw there's when I was kind of doing my homework to talk about this, like one of the things was don't text while you're bicycling. I'm like, dang, there's people that do that.
That's challenging.
That is not.
But I guess
easy.
they have to spell it out. I mean, all right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, Kyle, before we started talking, maybe if you were to offer a suggestion, like, to the team, like, I just pulled you guys over because I want to offer you some advice. Like, what would you say to a group of cyclists? Like, to be, hands down, like, how do you be safe? Your thoughts.
I would say, just courtesy is a big thing, and I know it's a two-way street, but to be honest, like, just being, and I think most of them probably do, so it's probably not new for everyone, but just being mindful of, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Like, if you're trying to drive up the canyon and you're trying to get to your home, there's people that live up there, or emergency vehicles, fire trucks, police cars and stuff. Like, it's, and sometimes Sunday drivers, or I don't know, whatever. And I just think, like, everybody across the board can be courteous. And I think that's the biggest key thing. Because if you're a courteous cyclist and you stay as far to the right as possible, and if you're two abreast and you're riding with your friends and enjoying it, awesome. But, make sure you got, like, you're aware, you're situationally aware. Like, if your mirror, you have I saw this really cool thing. This guy had like it's like a radar on his bike post when I was up there the other day, and then he had like his little Garmin thing on his bike, and it would like it had a little light indicator if a car's coming, and it would like increase as it got close. Like, we have technology, and use that to your benefit, I think. And I'm sure most of you do. I probably preach in the choir. Like, I'm just learning about this. You guys probably know way more about that than I do. So I think that's the biggest thing, is courtesy, and don't let your emotions take over when situations happen.
Nice.
I think it's easy to get mad, and I know my rights, and get into an argument, but you just you can't win with the car, and realizing that there are dangerous people out there in cars. It's sad. I mean, we just recently had that one day where, like, all those kids got run over playing in their yards, like that mom and her two kids, and then the one where the kids were like playing in the horse corral and a car went off the road. Like, there are some dangerous drivers out there. So don't let that keep you from following your passion and enjoying riding and stuff. But at the same time, you got to realize that there's a degree of risk of doing that, and take every chance you can to mitigate those risks.
Great advice.
So,
What about as a driver? Because we all also drive. What if you were going to offer advice to a driver up Immigration Canyon, like, hey, treat these cyclists like this? Would you offer the same advice?
For sure. Like, courtesy. Realize that cyclists they have a right to go and enjoy that. Like, you want to go the reason you take a drive up that canyon or ride your motorcycle up that canyon is because it's beautiful, and the fresh air and the sunshine. Like, realize that other people like to do that too. Cyclists, that's a magical thing for them, So, be happy that there's people out there doing that instead of, doing other bad things or whatever. Like everybody's going through something, and sometimes like, my wife's a trail runner. And so I know, like, a lot of times when people do something that's really physically challenging, that's their way of, like, coping with like hard things in life. People going through divorces, people lost jobs, things like that. So, like, I would say to motorists, just realize that everybody has a right to enjoy the beauty that our canyons have to offer, and I guess be glad or be cheerful that other people are doing it just like you get to. So afford them the right. And then secondly, I would just say, like, I don't think it's shocking to see how many people don't know this. I guess it's not really shocking because I didn't really know for sure, but you can pass on a double yellow as long as it's safe to do so. On use a left turn lane or a double yellow, and you can pass a bicyclist legally. It's right in the statute. So I would say, instead of being frustrated and just hanging back behind the cyclist, because I'm sure they're, like, probably thinking, okay, go past the, then they don't have to sit there and be watching their mirror and be, feel like a burden to the traffic behind them. So that's what I would say to the cyclists is be aware of what you can and can't do, and use good common sense and good judgment, and don't pass on a double yellow on a blind curb or a hill crest, obviously, just like you wouldn't if there was a car parked or broke down the road. But you can pass.
Yeah.
So some cars don't know that. Like some cars will get behind bicyclists and they're frustrated because they want to go, but they're like it's a double yellow, so I'm stuck here, and then they're mad at the cyclist. So I think just knowing what the laws are and what the rules are and what the norms are.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. I think of keeping frustrations down with people is they know what they can and can't do. So they know. So give me the rules. Let me play by the rules, right? And then on top of that, just being courtesy. Having courtesy. So I wrote down in my notes somewhere. Let me find it. Courtesy. So courtesy is a voluntary social behavior that exceeds our obligations under the law. Mm-hmm. So like, don't do just the minimum or just what don't do something just because you can do something. Go above and beyond.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. We see that often at a lot of the four-way stops that we come to. If there's a car waiting and it's clearly their right, they will. The courtesy of a lot of these drivers they'll wave us through the stop signs. Yeah. That's a huge courtesy. Some of those drivers will be like, well, those bikers can come to a complete stop and I'm going to go, but when we're at Immigration or right below Bonneville Golf Course, that neighborhood always waves us through those signs. Very, very courteous, drivers up there. So,
Kyle, we want to hear that from you. What is the law based on what Stuart just mentioned? You're approaching a four-way intersection. Stop signs are there. We're in a neighborhood. Cyclists have to put a foot down and stop, or can we roll through?
Yeah, that's a great question because for a lot of years, the Utah traffic laws for cyclists basically said you have to follow all the same laws as a car, which it still does say that, but it does. They've added kind of not an exception, but just some additional guidance to that law, where it does allow a cyclist as long as say it's a red light or a stop sign, as long as they go a safe speed, they don't have to come to a complete stop. They just have to make sure that they have the right of way. They're not going to impede anything, and that it's safe. So as long as it's safe to proceed, you don't have to stop at a stop sign or a red light. Like if there's no other cars around you, you're good. Yeah. Obviously, use good judgment. And I think that's a great thing because, and probably a lot of motorists that don't cycle don't know this, but it's like, especially for a more beginner cycler, you have to unclick out of the pedals. Yeah. You're like actually fixed to those pedals. Your feet are like, so if you go too slow or stop and you don't get it out right, like you just tip over, and that's no fun. So
not fun. Yep. Yeah, I think they say, is it like the yield? Mm-hmm. It actually has a name, like the Idaho yield, or
I don't know what
the stop. Give us the code. Kyle's got the code printed.
Yes, I do. So it's if you ever want to look at what Utah laws are, you can just Google them. But it'll take you the main site that's actual like the code book that's online for the state laws is oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. Utah, it's Utah code. So if you just Google Utah code, and then it has so it's 41-6A-1105 is the code. There's like a dash, so 41-6A-1105, and you can Google that and you can read all of this. But this one says an individual operating a bicycle approaching a stop sign may proceed through the intersection without stopping at the stop sign if the individual slows to a reasonable speed and yields to the right-of-way to pedestrians that are either in this intersection or adjacent to the crosswalk, about to cross, or other traffic within the intersection or oncoming traffic. So basically just as long as you're yielding, you don't have to stop. Treat it as like a yield.
Got it.
And use good judgment.
Use good judgment.
Use good judgment.
Before we leave the topic of what is dangerous inside the canyons, I think it's just important to reiterate what Kyle has mentioned. Speaking specifically to us cyclists and the Duole team, it is so important to just be riding defensively because there are those upset drivers. There's an upset driver every morning we summit Immigration Canyon.
Yeah, she's
and
upset.
She's, but we keep saying, a cyclist is never going to win against a car. There's no room for us to be flippant or get upset or make a scene, because you won't beat the car. And then you just have to remember what we are wearing. Like Kyle just said, you guys are on these skinny tires, spandex, 45 miles an hour, asphalt.
Yeah.
Like, common sense would say to all of us, it's different than when you're watching a race on TV where the road is completely closed to traffic, but we're sharing it. Yeah. And so therefore, it's up to us to be super mindful of that.
I think I'd add on to that too, Chip. Like, people are so aware of who we are. Everyone knows our colors. Everyone knows our logo. Every cyclist knows that, oh, those are the Barbacoa sponsored riders. I mean, if you're acting like an idiot, it reflects on the team immensely. Mm-hmm. Like, you throw a water bottle at a car because they got too close to you, dude, it is so easy to see our logo. Like, people know who we are. So if I could encourage us, like, I love the word courtesy, being mindful, being aware. That's all great advice for us, especially because we're not some ragtag guy like riding some bike in a weird Pearl Izumi outfit. Like, people know who we are. Like, they can tell those colors easily, and if you're a jerk, it'll reflect on all of us. So
yeah.
Anyway,
and then, but then at the same time, there are the unknowns. And Kyle, you know this. We have had cyclists hit by mean and mad drivers, and we've also had cyclists have deer, etc., jump right in front of them and crush the cyclist. You name it, coming flying down Mill Creek Canyon. There's deer. So
rocks
and Big Cottonwood always on that one spot. Yeah. Maybe, Kyle, that's a good thing to talk about. Somebody asked me that this week, is your advice on, what is a good system for, like, let's say I crash in Big Cottonwood on my bike. Do I instantly call you? I mean, what's a good rule of thumb when interacting with you guys?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it depends on the crash. So if you're injured, I think you should, because an injury can seem minor, especially right when you first crash, because when you crash, you have this adrenaline dump, and you may not feel pain until later. So having that documented, even if it's a single cyclist crash, if it's because there's rocks in the road or something, I mean, obviously, if it's just probably your health insurance would just kick in for that. But if it's ever another motorist and there's damage or injuries, I would get a police report. That's my recommendation. Get a police report, have it documented, get the case number, take pictures of anything you can. I mean, obviously your health is number one, health and safety. So, like, I would say if a crash just happened, do a head scan, make sure you can look up, look left, look right. Those are some things that if you start to have a concussion or become difficult, if you start saying repetitive things, those are, so make sure that your head's okay, things are working on your head. Do kind of like a body assessment. Are all your bones in the right places? Are all your bones inside your skin? Obviously, like I said, sometimes you can't feel pain when something crazy like that happens right away. So the next priority, I think, would be your safety and the safety of the scene. So, I mean, as long as you're not injured too bad, if you got a yard sale in the road and you're on a blind corner, I mean, you got to get that. You got yourself primarily out of the way, but you can if your bike and any other things that might be a danger. You don't need to call 911 unless there's injuries. You can call our non-emergency number, which is going to be 801-840-4000. When you call either 911 or the non-emergency number, they're going to ask you where you're at, your location, and they're going to ask you what injuries there are, if any, and they're going to ask you if the other parties are involved, like there's another car involved, they're going to ask you the license plate. So those are some things to kind of, you guys ever do the what if game? Like, if you, as cops, we have to do that. Like, okay, what if I walk out of this restaurant and someone tries to ambush me, or someone starts shooting? What am I going to do? Where's my escape? Where's the secondary exits, or where's my cover? Where's my concealment? Things like that. And I think all of us can benefit from playing the what if game. So when you're riding, and if you have a moment of, you probably have some time where your mind kind of wanders, start to think about it. What if I crashed right here, and this, what would be the first thing I would do? Or what if my buddy crashed right here? What, do you have ID on you? Do you have an accountability person that you told before you left on your ride? Hey, I'm going to go for a ride. This is where I plan on going. I plan on being back around this time. That way, if you don't come back, if they don't hear from you, they can start looking and start wondering and start looking for you. So those are some things I think. We all have phones and we all have our emergency contacts in our phones, but write down something in your wallet too. Have your ID and something in your wallet, because sometimes phones are locked. So, or the battery dies. And if something happens, we just roll up on a cyclist who's unconscious or something, it's important to have someone to get in touch with, So
Kyle, on that note, I'm going to show Kyle my road ID here that Stuart and I are both wearing. Would this be, so how frequently have you had to be like, okay, he's unconscious, at least check for, or he's not, speaking properly, let's at least grab the contact information. Mine gives all kind of medical information, my wife's phone number.
Blood type or allergies, those would be good information to put on there. No, that's awesome. That's a great idea.
Another shout out for the team to just, worst case scenario, they find you on the side of the road and there's they need to have access
or in a river in Lambs.
I'll make sure I pass that on to all the guys, and I'm sure they would. That's
these road IDs,
good thing to know about. So
I crashed once in Lambs. There's no service up there. Like, you're stuck.
Yep.
Like, you're hiking out or your buddy's hiking out. Mill Creek's the same.
Yep.
Like, when those rescue guys come up Mill Creek, it's like, we don't know where he is. Usually it's a buddy that's like had to go all the way down, and then they're coming back up like he's somewhere on Pipeline.
Yeah.
And I was with Charles once, and there was like 4 rescue guys like running up the trail with a stretcher. They had no clue where he was. They're just helicopters we've seen in Mill Creek. It's good to play what if.
Yeah.
That's smart.
That is really smart. Good advice.
Yeah.
What if?
Another thing, Kirby carries one of those in-touch Garmins that work.
Yes.
It works everywhere. So if he's up in Mill Creek or someplace weird, he can always have a signal to his wife.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I even carry, it's a thing called a Zoleo. It's just like an in-touch. It's a different brand, different device. But it basically Bluetooths to your phone, so like when you're out of service, you can still text.
Still works.
Yeah, it sends the text through the satellite service, and it's
Smart.
it's not that expensive. It's like $20 a month for the service.
Yeah.
So
That's smart. Very good. Okay, well, I've worked through all my questions. We talked about what cars and cyclists this is the last one, and we've kind of covered it, but if you had anything else, is there anything that you see where you're like, oh, here we go again, like I'm rolling up on another car cyclist accident? Is there like a common denominator that you're constantly seeing where a car and a cyclist are in trouble? Like, here's the top 3 reasons why I'm always seeing a cyclist getting hit. Is there?
I want to say visibility is probably the number one thing. Visibility, not just like what you're wearing and things like that, but the lighting, the environmental features. If it's a blind curb or a hill or things like that. I think that's the number one thing. And I transferred to the Canyons a little over a year ago now. So, knock on wood, I have not had a cyclist vehicle. I've had cyclist crashes a lot, mostly mountain bikes where search and rescues helping them. But I haven't had a car versus cyclist.
That's incredible.
So So yeah, so that's a good thing. I know my partners have, so I know it happens.
Yeah.
And that's why I say I'm kind of shocked that we don't have more of these. So luckily, that's good. But I have had other instances in my career in patrol, only in the city, and a lot of times it's kids, you know, and I think the biggest attribution to that is they're smaller, they're hard to see, they pop out of driveways, they pop out of, you know, crosswalks, and cars don't see them, or it's nighttime. A lot of other ones we've had, it's just, you know, they're riding in the dark with no lights, or the reflectors or whatever, you know. So being seen, I think, is probably one of the biggest factors when you're talking about bikes versus cars. And yeah,
we agree with that.
Yeah, we always ride. We're usually mornings before work. Most of us have kids, so we got all the lights, like a Christmas tree,
like a school bus. We look like a school bus going up the canyon.
Yeah, that's the best way to be.
Sensitive topic. You don't have to answer, or I can edit it if you want me to.
Okay.
Immigration Oaks. You know the turnoff?
I do. Yeah.
Is it legal for us to ride up there?
Ooh, I don't know if I could speak on that or not. It says it's a private road, so it's so basically, according to what the signs say, and this is probably what I'd go by, is if you are a guest in that neighborhood, you're going to someone's house that you know there, and they've invited you, or you know, you're good.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is marked that it's a private road. I think they have an HOA up there, and they cover the costs of their roads and their roads maintenance and stuff. So I guess they can make the rules. You know, they built the roads; they can make the rules for them. So I would say be very respectful of that. And we do get because they do watch, and we do get calls out there.
Yeah,
and there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, we'll keep that in the podcast then. You've been warned.
Yes, I know. I agree.
I agree.
It's good.
Yeah,
I think the single biggest complaint for immigration is the single file. I think if people can just really make it a point, and I know there's situations where you can ride two abreast, but if you just make it a point to ride single file, if there's cars around, just do it. Yeah, that's my best advice.
Yeah,
Kyle was exasperated there. Just do it.
Just do it.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, well, Kyle, you are awesome. Very cool. Anything else, Chip? Any other questions?
No, not really. It just opens up so much for us to think about. I think.
Yeah.
We love being out there, and but we also have to remember to just think about the what ifs. We've talked about that, and just be overly cautious on the defense. You know.
I agree. Anything else, Kyle?
No, I think
you got all.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. I appreciate you guys having me today.
Yeah, man, you're awesome.
Really good.
I hope you're on the scene when I don't know. I don't want to say when something happens, but yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I hope to see you guys more when we're out there handing out water bottles and
man,
giving high fives. And maybe someday I'll be riding with you.
Yes,
so that'd be awesome.
Oh man,
I got to save up though, because man, bikes sure cost a lot nowadays.
Yeah, they are.
Did you look them up? Did you
look
it up?
You get what you pay for though.
Yes.
Yeah, did you look them up? Is that one of the things you did?
Well, yeah, and you know, just talking with the riders up there, they'll show me their bikes, and I'm like,
what?
Well, I don't want that bike. I want this bike, but this bike's $5,000, $10,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to spot the more expensive one.
Tell the force you need it. Yeah. It's got to be a work expense.
That's right.
You know what? They get for the Canyon Patrol. We've got some Treks full suspension e-bikes.
Nice. Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're awesome.
That's really fun.
I don't know if we could sell them on road bikes because I don't know.
If it's an e-bike, you ride right next to us.
That's
That'd be
right.
Awesome.
We'd need it too. We need an e-bike.
Alrighty, well, we'll let him go. I know it's been we've been together for an hour, so grateful for our time.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Thank
you. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And everybody enjoy